Yeah, totally. I mean, I think it's probably going to be harder if they've spent, 30, 40 years just not being confident. They're not going to just wake up tomorrow and say, okay, I'm confident now. Um, it's going to take work. They're going to have to try some things out that maybe they were afraid to do before. Maybe they haven't tried. I mean, I would say, people kind of have to get out of their comfort zone. I mean, every time I've kind of improved at something or, just been more confident about anything, it's because I got out of my comfort zone. You can't really just do things that you know how to do and get more confident because it's just you're already confident in those things. So you kind of break out and try some things you don't know, and then you'll learn, hey, I can really you know I can do these other things too, and it kind of gives you kind of a confidence to go try anything else you want to do.
Yeah. And lastly, the question I want to ask you, do you think it's necessary for people to spend a lot of money to learn how to improve? And, maybe you need to make a small investment, but coming from your kind of business perspective, where you've had a lot of businesses, like, did you invest a lot of money initially in coaching or training, or do you think it's necessary? What is your view on that?
I don't think it is. Are there certain points where I would? Yeah, I've spent money actually. Last year, I spent $7,000 to go to a certain conference that Tim Ferriss was running, and but I'm at a different point than if I was maybe 21 and trying to start out. I wouldn't have paid that to go to that conference. It's a um, different point. I mean, like I said, you can read a bunch of books and get tens of thousands of dollars worth of knowledge, if not more, just out of a $20 book. Um, so it's I think people that want to shortcut their learning curve, they don't need to spend money on expensive seminars and the products and things like that. Um, Especially newer people, they don't understand what's beneficial and what's not, and so lots of times they see oh, this thing's $5,000, it must be really good if it's that price, and so they think that's what the people who succeed are spending to get the next step. And a lot of times it's just like you had mentioned, it's people who don't know how to make money that you're learning from, but you don't know that because you're not skilled enough to kind of evaluate the purchase. So for beginners, yeah, I would not recommend spending much money. I mean, spend some money on books, read free forums. I mean, everything's most things are free or really cheap, like books these days, anyways. So for a couple $100, I'd buy dozens of books on people you want to be like, and read a bunch of forums and blogs, and that's how I would start out if I was starting over in terms of like spending money. Um, and in terms of the stuff that I've started. I've spent some money to start some websites, but it was only after I'd done crazy amounts of research, so it wasn't really too much of a risk. It was more um, just kind of needed a certain amount of money to get going, but it wasn't gambling with money. It was well researched, and I put money into it. But yeah, everything I've done that um, for the most part that I've tried out does not cost much money to start up.
Okay. Well, so pretty much there's no excuse for anybody not to become more confident, not to take action, because all the materials there really doesn't cost a fortune, and you just need to take action, right? That's what you're saying.
For the most part, yeah. I mean, most of the people I talk to who are maybe wanting to you know do business or start a project, most of their questions are around fear that they can't do it, and all these things. And the only reason they never try it out is because they never got any experience with it. So they just kind of they're afraid that they're going to fail, and since they don't have an experience failing, and they don't learn, hey, it's not that bad, project and fail, and you just learn from it. Since they've never experienced those things, so most of the people I talk to don't end up trying anything is because they never really tried anything new before. So so they're so afraid to get out of that comfort zone, and the risk, people fear risk way too much.
Yeah. And that getting out of the comfort zone is super important to becoming more confident. So,
Yeah.
I think that's pretty much it. If you want to share anything else or you have anything you'd like to advise people, please go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I would say is, and you've probably heard me talk about this before, but um, people are incorrectly uh, associating their decisions with risk. So it's all emotional, and so it's not. They're making illogical decisions just based off their fear of failure. And if they just kind of could look at something logically and see that the downside, Tim Ferriss talks about this. I like the way he worded it in the 4 Hour Work Week, where he says, it's basically if you take a risk and it's, let's say you're at a 7, right, on a scale of 1 to 10 all the time. You're at a 7. Um, if you fail, maybe you'll be at a temporary, let's say a 5, because you're disappointed you failed. But if you succeed, you might be at a consistent 9 or 10 forever. And just people are so afraid to risk that temporary disappointment that they just fear the risk. They fear the downside too much instead of looking, at the other side where you could have, permanent upside. And they just don't. I don't think that ever comes to mind just because they fear it too much. So.
Yeah, that's a good one, and really recommend to anyone to read Tim Ferriss's 4 Hour Work Week. There's a lot of wisdom in there. So, thanks, Billy.
Yeah.
Fantastic interview. Good having you here. For anyone who's watching, be sure to check out Billy's site at ForeverJobless.com.
Thanks a lot.
Cheers.